Well, hello, it's Miriam Schulman, founder of The Inspiration Place, and welcome to my studio and welcome to video one of my four-part free video series on painting the portrait with watercolor. I wanted to let you know what you're going to learn if you stay tuned for this full series. Video number one, I'm going to give away the dirty secret that portrait painters know and don't want you to know, because I want you to get over your fear of drawing faces so that you can take this adventure with me. Because if you're too intimidated to draw, you're not going to be able to join me on this adventure. So video number one, I'm going to give you some really great tips for how to cheat and get a likeness in your portrait every single time. So that's video number one if you stay tuned right here today. I'm also going to share with you my story on how I became a portrait painter so we can spend some time getting to know each other. And then in video number two, I'm going to share with you some tips on how to take some beautiful photographs of your children, of your grandchildren, of anyone that you want to create a portrait of. So there'll be free tips on photography in video number two. In video number three, I am going to share with you my complete watercolor supply list for portraits. Now, if you've taken a watercolor class with me before, you're going to have most of these supplies already. There are a few different pigments though that I use just for portraits, so I've added them to that list. So if you want to get that list, you're going to have to stay tuned for video number three. And in video number four, I am going to share with you some portraits that my students have created, and I'm going to explain exactly what's going to be involved in the Watercolor Portraits online e-course so you can decide if you want to take the next steps with me and go deeper into really mastering watercolor portraits beyond where we scratch the surface. Now, I just want to warn you, this free series is only up for a few weeks. So right now we're in January 2017, and by January 26th or maybe sooner, I got to pin down the exact date, this free series won't be here anymore. So don't save this for a rainy day. These videos are really short. Instead of scrolling on your phone, believe me, there's nothing on TV. Everything stinks on TV right now. Even my favorite shows aren't on. So instead of watching TV or scrolling with your phone or whatever, spend some little time with me, because this free series will be going away pretty soon. So that's what you can expect in this free series. So without any further ado, let's get started. Video number one, I'm going to share with you the portrait painter's dirty little secret. So let's get started. Hey folks, it's Miriam Schulman, founder of The Inspiration Place, and I'm super excited that you signed up for this free video series. So thank you so much for subscribing. So I promise that I will not waste your time today. You will definitely learn something that you can try out as you go down this journey of painting people, real people. So I wanted to give you the game plan for today. So here's how to know if you're in the right place. You're in the right place if you have grandchildren that you are aching to paint, you're looking for a new hobby or new focus for 2017, you've always wanted to try portraits, but either you don't know where to start, in other words, you're a complete beginner, or you've tried, but your portraits came out looking a little cartoonish, or you struggle to get the proportions right. And you're also in the right place if you've drawn or painted faces, but they don't look like a real person. In other words, you do kind of the fantasy type of faces or from your imagination. That's not really the type of drawing that I'm here to teach you. I'm going to teach you some real techniques. And you've also are in the right place if you've already drawn and painted portraits in oils or pastels or something else, and now you really want to try watercolor. And you're also okay. It's okay if you've never painted in watercolor before. That's really okay. You're still in the right place. Now, this presentation is not for you if you are not interested in painting realistic portraits in watercolor, then this isn't for you. And this isn't going to be mixed media, and it isn't going to be oils, and we're not trying to make our portraits look like a photograph. You're also not in the right place if you don't like to try new things, or if you're not ready to let go of your perfectionism. So I know a lot of you have trouble with that, but really it's an attitude that you're willing to try to let go of that perfectionism. And this also isn't for you if you don't want to hear about any classes that I'm offering. So I'll be giving away lots of free information in all of these videos, but I also will be sharing with you how you can go a little deeper with me and learn my step-by-step system. In all 4 of these videos, you'll be hearing me talk about my new online course, Watercolor Portraits. So this free mini video series is going to help you get started on the road to traditional portraiture. And I truly hope that you get a lot of value out of this free series, because I really do pride myself that my free content is a lot better than what other artists charge for. And in fact, what I'm sharing with you today, a lot of people won't either share this at all. So you can get started on the road to painting pictures of your family, or even taking commissions if that's something that you're looking to do. As you're about to discover the dirty secret that realistic portrait painters know but don't want to share with you. Because the truth is, you don't have to draw well to paint portraits. Now, I'm a lot like you. I wasn't always a professional artist. I wanted to be, but when I went through college on financial aid, that was just not encouraged by my single mother. So instead, I studied to be an engineer, and I worked on Wall Street to pay off my student loans. And then I took a position at a major hedge fund. When I was scheduled to return from maternity leave back in 2001, 9/11 happened, and I took that as a sign from the universe not to return back to that life. Meanwhile, I had always drawn for fun, and I was really obsessed with art. So I started slowly playing with my watercolors and selling landscapes of local scenes. I desperately wanted to see if I could make art my job so I wouldn't have to return to my job writing computer programs for financial traders. And I would have had to go back to work if I had not stumbled upon the portrait painter secret, which I am going to share with you today.
Now, I know that there's a few of you out there who may be a little disappointed to hear what I'm about to tell you, because maybe you signed up for this course thinking I was going to teach you how to draw an eye, how to draw lips. It's not about how to draw each shape. It is about, like any of my other classes, it's about how to capture the light on an object, whether the object is a person or a pear or a pumpkin or whatever it happens to be, or a flower. The drawing is definitely secondary. The most important part about getting a likeness is getting the exact position of the pupils and the little dark spot in the mouth and where the nostrils are. That's the most important thing. Now, if you feel like you need to slave over it a little more, you can take out a ruler and measure it. But that's not what I'm going to teach you. What I'm going to teach you is how most portrait artists do it. When my daughter was when she was 5, I did a very elaborate birthday party, which is what I used to do in those days. That was before I had a big art business. I don't even know if I had a little art business back then. I used to do these very elaborate birthday parties for both my kids, not just my daughter. And for my daughter, I wanted to do a princess party, a Disney princess party. And I got the idea that for the party, I would draw huge life-size drawings of each of the Disney princesses, and the girls would color them in. And I got the idea from the back of one of my artist magazines to get a projector. I got the projector and I got my Disney princesses and I projected on the wall, and I used my magic marker and I traced it. And after the party, which was great by the way, they had a great time, I said, you know what, maybe I should try using this projector for a portrait. Let me see how that will come out. So I took a photograph of my son and I slapped it face down and I pointed it to a piece of paper and I traced the big outline, and then I painted it. That is how I did portraits for a long time. And I can tell you that that is how most portrait artists, and this is going back hundreds of years and today, do their portraits. So let's talk about that for a minute. Now I know some of you are upset to hear this, and whenever I've mentioned this in any of my painting classes, I always get shocked gasp like, oh, it's cheating, or don't you want to do it yourself? You are doing it yourself. You are doing it yourself. You're not, it's not cheating. It sounds like it's cheating, it's not cheating. And most of the work comes in the painting. Now I can sit down with a piece of charcoal and I can and do draw from life. It's not that I can't draw. It's just to get an accurate likeness, to get the exact places of these certain benchmarks around the face. Where do the ears go in relation to the eyes? Exactly, for this particular person. That's where the tracing comes in. So I actually find it's very difficult to do the projector method. So although you can do it that way, I don't recommend it. It's not what I do anymore. Also, when you do the projector method, you're not going to be able to see every single line for tracing. It's really just the benchmarks that you are putting in. Now, I just want to say one more thing about the whole tracing controversy. Even if you decide, you know what, that Miriam, that is not for me. I don't want to trace. I want to do it. Fine, you go ahead and do it. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to sketch the portrait, whether you're drawing from a photograph, which is what I'm talking about, or you're drawing from life. You're going to have to sketch that not on your watercolor paper. You're going to have to sketch it most likely with charcoal on a separate sheet of paper, and you're still going to have to trace it. You're going to have to trace your drawing onto your watercolor paper. Why? Because you can't have all these lines and erasures on your pretty watercolor paper. You won't be able to make a nice painting once you have all those lines on there. So let's talk about a brief history of tracing in portrait work. Let's first start with Vermeer, who used the beautiful window light. And he did beautiful realistic portraits that look like photographs. And there's a reason for that. Prominent Vermeer scholars, people who study the history of art, many of them are convinced that Vermeer used an early form of what is known as camera obscura to define his underpaintings. Basically a projector with mirrors and light. I mean, obviously, I don't think he used electricity. They probably used a candle or something, and it would project the image would come like a pinhole, and a pinhole image would be cast onto the mirror, and then it would be reflected onto a piece of paper, and then he would trace it. So there you go. That is Vermeer hundreds of years ago. And by the way, I don't think he thought of this himself. I'm sure other people did it too. So there is a history of this tracing in fine art. Let's talk about the next guy who actually they're sure that he traced. And that is painter Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell graced the covers of countless magazines in the course of the 20th century. And he is one of the most beloved illustrators of America. You can recognize many of his works, but virtually all of them started as photographs. Now he would compose them himself. He would get a photographer and he'd say, I want a picture of this, and he'd get his neighbors and ordinary people, and they would pose. And he would put them together. But I have to tell you that the end result was traced. It's just so obvious. I'm going to show you the photograph and the painting, and you're going to see that, yeah, he traced a photograph. That was how he did it. I belong to the Connecticut Society of Portrait Artists, and so Connecticut, as you know, it's right outside New York, and there's a lot of famous portrait artists who belong to the society. They have their studios in Connecticut, people who have painted popes and presidents, and I've been to their studio, and by the way, they traced photographs. So let's sum up. For many artists, myself included, Norman Rockwell included, the composing of the photograph is a creative act, and it is an art in itself. Photography is an art. Luckily, as artists, we can cheat with our photographs. Our photograph does not have to be perfect because we can make changes. We can paint the way we want it to be. If one kid looks horrible in one photo but looks good in another, you can combine two photos. I've changed the background in photos. I've adjusted things. You know, we can do these magical things in painting that you can't do with photography. I mean, after all, what would be the point of making the painting if we were only just to copy the photograph exactly? Then you might as well just take a photograph and do it in Photoshop.
All right, so now that you know it's okay to trace, doesn't that put your mind at ease that you don't have to be great at drawing to paint portraits? Now, of course, there's a little bit more to it than just tracing, because if that was all there was to it, everyone would be doing it. And I want to be able to show you how to do this the right way in the full watercolor portraits class. Think about this. Wouldn't it be great if you could learn how to paint your children or grandchildren? When I learned how to paint portraits, it literally transformed my life. I didn't have to go back to work on Wall Street to do a job that felt empty and had no meaning for me. But more importantly, whenever I do a portrait, whether it's on commission or for my family, I'm creating a pace of immortality for myself and for others. I'm leaving a footprint firmly on this earth. Painting portraits has given my life meaning, and there's no greater gift than to capture the soul of another human being, and I want to share that gift with you. Maybe nothing has worked for you so far, but this is going to be different. I will break down exactly how to trace and scale your drawing, and then what changes to make so it doesn't look like a cartoon or an outline. But you can't sign up for that portrait class yet, and I still have a lot more free stuff to share with you, because in video number 2, I'm going to share some photography tips. Plus, in video number 3, I will be sharing with you my complete watercolor supplies, which also includes a few pigments that I only use for watercolor painting. I don't want you to miss out on these videos because they're only going to be up for a very short time. So be sure to keep a lookout for my emails. And then I have a challenge for you. I want you to leave me a comment or question right below this video. So why don't you let me know what you think, as I want to hear from you. I really want to get to know you as much as as much as you're getting to know me, I want to get to know you too. So leave a comment below. What do you think of that? I can't wait to hear from you. And if you have a question about anything I shared with you today, leave that down here below. And I'm going to try to get to everybody's comments and questions. I can't wait to hear from you. If you don't have Facebook and you can't leave a comment, no worries. Just email me. I can't wait to get your email. And in a few days, we'll be talking about taking photographs. So until then, take care.